Welcome to the Necronama.com, where we're spending all of October looking at 31 episodes of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Today, we're looking at Treehouse number 2 from October 31st, 1991. I am James Savannah.
I'm Don Guillory.
And I'm Thomas Brungardt.
You're back, yay!
Welcome! All right,
get used to it.
Well, thank goodness. We thought we scared you off there for a second. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Simpsons Halloween Special number 2, or Treehouse of Horror number 2. The story starts where the family's out trick-or-treating. They come home. Marge does the very Marge thing of warning the family, hey, don't eat too much candy because you're going to have a nightmare. So what does the family do? They go ahead and eat as much candy as possible, including sleeping with candy. And then Bart, Lisa, and Homer all have nightmares, fulfilling Marge's prophecy.
Yeah, and I think during that opening segment, Homer's watching the news or something, and he makes some crack like, oh, if you don't like it, go to Russia, which I think is funny that kind of joke is still relevant today.
Yeah, because they were like, in case you're not scared, the presidential election's coming up, and he's, like you said, he goes, if you don't like it, go to Russia. And when I saw that, I literally looked at my wife, and I was like, holy shit, we're still doing this? And then I realized, well, The Simpsons is still on, so why not?
And then Lisa's costume, the Pacific Northwest indigenous totem pole.
Yes.
As somebody who lived in the Pacific Northwest, very accurate. It is an accurate costume. I think they did a really nice job. I just wanted to point that out. That somebody who wrote that was like, we have to do it, and we have to do it right. Good redemption.
That was the hill they were dying on.
Good redemption from the previous episode of the Indian burial ground. They're like, we got to turn it around. We got to celebrate the native population. Okay, so the first act is Lisa's dream, and it's a spoof on the Monkey's Paw. I think there's another story, Small Talent for War, where the family they go off to Marrakesh. I love that bit because Homer makes a joke about, where's Grace Kelly? And Marge is like, oh, that's Monaco, not Marrakesh. And then Homer buys a monkey's paw from a street vendor. It grants him 3 wishes, and we go on the journey of how they use those wishes. And, yeah, what did you guys think of this first bit?
Well, he also offers some froyo.
He does.
Yes!
I know James loves that bit, and I was hoping he would give it to me verbatim.
Let me start with a different line, because there's a line in this that I just adore, and I say it all the time, and my wife doesn't even know why. But I love the line, there's something I don't like about that severed hand. What a great line. But, no... we'll get to the froyo, but...
that's later on, yeah.
Yeah. But, no, I love... Monkey Paw was one of the original horror stories that I remember hearing as a young child.
Same.
And so I love that they went here right away, and I really like how... I like how the wishes each come with some terrible thing attached, like the story. Only they're kind of ridiculous, as they should be, because it's The Simpsons. And it's such a great juxtaposition of the original story and then just upping the humor. And I feel like this is the first time that they... Well, not the first time, because the first time's to serve, man. But this is the one that they get really right in this one, where they just found that right balance. Like, they're still looking for their overall tone and stuff that we'll get into in 4 and 5. But this is definitely on the right track.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a little sad that the monkey doesn't flip everybody off.
Well, there's something, yeah. There's something that's very interesting about this, and I was asking it. I looked up some things to see if I was confirmed on it. But you have the wishes to correspond with the fingers, and it's interesting that they're all supposed to have something negative attributed to them, some negative effect. But the first wish that takes place, maybe it's to suck them in a little bit. No pun intended. Maggie wishes for pacifier, right? But there's nothing bad that happens from it.
Well, what you don't know is that Maggie shit her pants.
And that her teeth are going to grow in crooked, Dawn.
Yeah, the orthodontic bills. I mean, that's terrible.
Look, that's nothing that's exclusive to her wish, though.
And you know how much trouble Homer has with his dental plan.
Dental plan.
Lisa needs braces.
Dental plan.
Lisa needs braces. I want to say something that's not Simpsons related, but when I rewatched this, it made me think of you, Don, because they're in Marrakesh, which is in Morocco, and all I could think about the entire time was 90 Day Fiancé.
For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge 90 Day Fiancé fan, and I tweet about it nonstop when I'm watching it. We all have our crosses to bear.
That's why I unfollowed you.
Whatever.
But I'm like, this is where Nicole and Asin were. Is this the same market they went to? I was just like, I just want to talk to Don about 90 Day Fiancé now.
I can go.
That'll be a different podcast.
That's a different thing entirely. But yeah, this whole thing is the morality of being careful what you wish for, right? And it goes kind of the way you expect it to go. And then I love the not twist ending, but the funny ending of Flanders getting the monkey's paw and just finding success with it, and just much to Homer's chagrin, which I always love. I always love when Homer's upset with Flanders for whatever reason. Yeah, I like this one.
Well, the other two wishes that you got, because Lisa, I mean, that ultimately leads to Flanders' wish, but she wishes for world peace, which it almost becomes a trope when involving, magic lamps or any type of wishes that are supposed to be granted. You always have somebody saying, "Hey, let's wish for world peace," or let's do, or to wish to be rich, like Bart does. And you don't typically think about whatever the consequences of that are. And with Bart, it's, they become reviled because they're rich and famous. People can't stand having them around or seeing them or hearing about them. Lisa's wish leads to an alien invasion, and, Homer, for all fucking things, wishes for a turkey sandwich.
You could at least get a tasty sandwich.
Yeah, but the problem with his sandwich was that it was a little dry.
That wasn't part of the deal, Blackheart. But, so, now let's go back to Bart for a second, because I feel like this is Bart's fault, okay? Bart says he wants to be rich and famous. If he would have just said rich, he might have been okay, because everything that goes wrong for them is due to their fame. But I love that they make fun of, like, the $18 shirt that just has Bart on it saying, like, "Hi, man," or whatever it said.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a sweatshirt. I had a sweatshirt that had Bart, and it just said "Eat my shorts." And I always thought that was weird, because I don't wear shorts with a sweatshirt. But,
Wait, did you get in trouble at school for wearing that shirt?
I would have. Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't allowed.
Had you gone to school?
Yeah, had I gone to school. Exactly. I mean, I was very busy. That's a story for a different day. Anyway, so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, even with the time of this show and the joke about this shirt, it tells you about the stuff that was tolerated or not tolerated at that time, because you could get in trouble for wearing a Simpsons shirt that just said "Eat my shorts" on it.
Yep.
I knew a number of kids who had, the dress code violations because their shirts were profane. And that was it. That was it. It was just Bart Simpson saying "Eat my shorts."
Well, it's funny now because there's, high schools that don't even have dress codes anymore. So it's just it's the Wild West out there now. But back then, I remember kids getting reprimanded for shirts that said really innocent stuff like that. So times have changed.
I also like how this makes fun of The Simpsons' popularity. Like, there's so many people that are like, I'm so sick of The Simpsons during this skit. And, like, this is when The Simpsons was starting to really take over. And it was super popular. And we were buying all this shit. And I'm sure a lot of people were really sick of The Simpsons. So I like how it makes fun of that as well.
Well, it was everywhere, even in its competition, because at this point, I think it was still on Thursday nights. They hadn't made that Sunday night switch yet. And they were running up against the Cosby Show. And I remember, when they were talking about the popularity of The Simpsons, Raven Simone wore a Bart Simpson mask on the Cosby Show. And it was not a shot at The Simpsons. They were kind of making fun of, and I guess in a way breaking the fourth wall. But they were making fun of the competition that they were having with the cartoon. And there was this moment where, Bill Cosby, different mindset that America had towards Bill Cosby back then, because we didn't know that he was a rapist.
Yeah.
Who is that you're talking about?
Bill Cosby.
William Cosby. Okay.
And yeah, it was one of these things of a generational switch or shift where people were now getting on board this show that was seen as raunchy and seen as a little bit, inappropriate, and abandoning shows like Cosby, which were seen as wholesome and fun, and despite whatever, the namesake of the show may have been doing.
Yeah, so basically what we're saying is if you had Eat Your Shorts, then that was way, way worse than watching The Rapist every week. All right, cool.
Exactly.
You know what I've never understood? Don, you said that he was convicted by a jury of his peers. What is a peer? Like, if I murder somebody and they're like, oh, we have a jury of your peers, I'd be like, you found 12 more people who committed murder? Like, what is a peer at that point?
Peterson knows all about peers.
Just throwing it out there. I don't have anything else.
I don't know the definition of peer in that sense, other than somebody who couldn't get out of jury duty. Yeah.
Oh man.
You're leaving my fate up to somebody who isn't clever enough to get out of jury duty.
I don't think you should ever say that if you're on trial. That might influence their decision making.
All I'm going to say is I want people to serve their time on a jury, because I don't want the people that are considered the ones that have the free time to be on a jury because they have nothing else to do and they want to send somebody to jail.
There you go. So Lisa's wish is world peace. And there's this great montage where everybody's like bringing in their guns and throwing them in the big fire. Like that's not going to set off the ammunition or anything.
Yeah.
And I love that because everybody did this, we're now completely defenseless. So our good friends, Ken and Kodo, show back up and they want to take over because you can't fight back now. And, so we get this big scene where they've basically overtaken the earth and they're forcing everybody to be slaves. And then we get the board with the nail in it. and they're able to fight back because of this board with the nail.
This board with the nail technology.
Yes, and I think that's so great. It's so ridiculous that these aliens can come all that way and they can enslave an entire planet, and then the thing that can beat them, I think that's just awesome.
I love the fact that it's Mo,
right?
It's
Mo does seem the type, so.
And board with nail comes back later. I think Mo uses it a few times throughout the series.
Good for him. But and then as they're leaving, the aliens make the comment that they'll just keep building bigger boards with bigger nails, and one day it will destroy them. I think that's just fucking great. But at the same time, it's so true because you do just keep making bigger and better weapons, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. So it's a great joke, but it's also very heavy.
I mean, it gets into a lot of things. I mean, but you talked about that, but, you know, nuclear armament and the nuclear proliferation race, where some people, that joke might be a little bit too over their head. And then for some folks, it's going to be right on the nose. Which then begs the question. I think I wrote this one down. Is this, you know, what exactly is the meaning world peace? Is it really getting rid of all the weapons, or is it something else? Because the way world peace is always written, you know, it is this way of getting rid of all the guns, as opposed to, all right, everybody, we're not going to fuck with each other.
Back to the monkey paw here. Talk me through what you like about Flanders here at the end, Thomas.
I just think that Homer shits on Flanders a lot, and I kind of love when Flanders gets the last laugh. Because back then, Homer was still like this mean guy. Like in later seasons, he just becomes an oaf, like just a clumsy idiot. But he still had like genuine hostility at this point. And I loved when it didn't pay off for him. I just like that.
Don, you want to take us through Bart's nightmare?
I really don't, because, you know, being in this kid's head is kind of scary enough, considering that he is in your head during his nightmare, which is weird because his nightmare involves being able to get whatever he wants through mind control, as far as being able to manifest things or change things or you know, attack people or whatever. It's very interesting that this is his nightmare. He's, you know, it seems like this would have been more like Homer's nightmare as opposed to Bart, because he has this ability to do whatever the hell he wants with his mind. And that involves like, oh, I heard somebody talking badly about me. Oh, I can, you know, you can do anything to them. You know, his dad is trying to kill him, or I'm sorry, trying to hit him over the head or kill him or whatever. Anyway, just to stop him. And Bart turns him into a jack-in-the-box. And it just becomes this hilarious moment, or a hilarious running joke where you have Homer, who is a jack-in-the-box, a full-on clown jack-in-the-box, and he's going to all these things with Bart, like the fishing and baseball games, amusement parks, and whatever. And it's more funny than it is anything else, as far as like some of the other stuff that we've seen where you're really thinking about it. A lot more introspective. But what's great is it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, like I was gonna say, like I don't think it becomes a nightmare for Bart until the very end of it. But
yeah.
Well, keep going.
No, and that's the weird thing about it, because his nightmare is when the dad, Homer likes him, or at least they get along, and Homer gives him a kiss, and that's when he like screams waking up. Where I'm kind of like, you put us through all this, and the thing that he's afraid of is affection from his dad.
Yeah, like the nightmare is a close relationship with his father. Yeah, I thought that was a funny payoff. Like, I think that's really funny.
No, and like I said, it wasn't something that it had to be tremendously deep about it. It was kind of one of these things where you're sitting there waiting, like, all right, what's going to be the hook? What's going to be the thing and it's like, oh shit, he's close to his dad. He's scared of that. But I guess you could go deeper with that, because if you think about, you know, a lot of father-son relationships, especially in the early 90s, we hadn't gotten to that point of guys discussing their feelings, or at least the acceptance of men discussing their feelings, and men relating to their sons or to their fathers in, I guess, in a caring way. So, I mean, if anything, it's more of a commentary about, you know, just American society as far as the way that we assign behavior with men.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really sums it up right there. It's that whole fear of a relationship with another man, right? And I mean, it works for both of them, really. And it's an ongoing theme throughout The Simpsons, really. It's just slightly more horror-based here. But I want to go back to what you said about the Jack in the Box going to all these things with Bart. Like, I love how when Homer finally asks for his body back, Bart's like, "Oh yeah, sure, man, here." Like Homer could have probably asked for this a lot sooner. And I'm like, how did this poor guy get around all this time? He had to hop everywhere. And that's just so odd. And like, no one else thinks this
He's
is
got
weird,
a radio
apparently.
flyer. Nobody questions Bart. That's the point. Have you guys seen the Twilight Zone this was based on?
I saw it a long time ago. It was like Good Life or something like that.
Yeah, It's a Good Life. I saw it also years ago, so I don't really remember, but I was hoping one of you guys did.
It's been done a few times. I mean, it's not just The Simpsons that have borrowed from this or parodied it. There was an episode or a story in the Twilight Zone movie where they did the same thing, where it was the little boy who was living in the house and like he sewed his sister's mouth shut or closed her mouth shut. He wanted whatever he wanted for dinner. He wanted to watch cartoons all the time. And his family was so deathly afraid of him. Like, we can't say anything against him or do anything wrong, to wrong him or even think a different way because he'll fuck us up. And what I like about that story that they included in the movie was that it was an outsider who came in and she says this line that I always think about. It's like, I can be your teacher. I can be your student. You can teach me. I can teach you. And it's always one of these things of they don't know how to deal with you. I don't know how to deal with you, but I'm willing to learn. And what's great about this story, as far as how it's captured in The Simpsons, is Homer goes for violence first, right? He goes for his trademark violence to deal with Bart. That family in the Twilight Zone story in the movie does the same thing. They go for violence. It's like, we've got to kill him. We got to do all this stuff. We got to do something against him to stop him from controlling us or changing our lives or whatever he does. But it's that person who decides, I'm going to care for you. I'm going to treat you, as a person as opposed to a thing. Then you get the kid, living a different way, or at least exercising, his gifts in a way that aren't going to be malicious.
So the Twilight Zone episode, again, this was a long time ago, so I'm going to try to pull this from my memory, but I believe like he sectioned off the whole town and like they had to grow their own crops and stuff, because if I'm remembering correctly, at the end he makes it snow, which would destroy the crops. And like the families have to the dad gets mad and he's like screaming at him, and then everyone makes him stop. They're still bowing down to him. Like dad is still like trying to stand up to him, but getting shot down and basically having to appease the kid. Whereas the Simpsons actually did the thing that Bart's afraid of. And they had the moment where Homer and Bart kind of come together. And they have that male-male relationship there of as close to love as these two get, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of nice that the Simpsons like brought it to a happy place, and then that's the twist is they just flip that, and that's what's terrifying to Bart. In the original Twilight Zone, they section everything off. Like everybody's stuck in this town, right? They can't go anywhere. They can't get out. If they try, the boy will probably kill them. That's more implied than actually shown, of course. What do you think about that? I mean, it's not like you can really section off an area, but like that thought comes back to The Simpsons in the movie as well, where the dome comes down, or just different things like that. And it's been done a lot of other times. But what are your thoughts on that?
You had the ability to section off towns because, one, when that original story was aired, you had reservations. You had, of course, the internment camps. You had aspects of society where you had, I mean, hell, if you want to even include military bases, you have towns within towns or communities within communities that can easily be sectioned off, divided, subdivided. And it's at least with the story of It's a Good Life, it's more an issue of Well, I won't even say that. What you see with these other aspects of where it's sectioned off, it's all about quarantining that one area. And it doesn't take that much to turn from, a section of a town to a full-on quarantine. Because if you have people that are in one area that are contained in that area by choice, you can then extend that containment by force pretty easily. So, James, what do you think about that third segment?
Oh man, the third segment. So let me do the little summary first, and we'll talk about Frankenstein, who's also known as the Booger Man. So the nuclear power plant, Mr. Burns and his buddy Smithers, they start firing people at random to kind of put the fear of God into everybody, right? And Homer becomes a gravedigger. And then Burns, he builds these robots to take the place of the people that he's fired, and he decides he needs a human brain for the robot. And so he goes to the cemetery where Homer works, and he finds Homer sleeping in an open grave. And based on Homer being passed out there and his terrible stench, Mr. Burns thinks he must be a corpse. And takes him, and he removes his brain and puts it in the robot. Of course, that doesn't. Robot's just as incompetent as Homer always is. And Burns calls the entire experiment a failure, puts the brain back in Homer, kicks the robot, which then falls on Mr. Burns and pretty much kills him. And then we get the moment where Homer wakes up and we find out Mr. Burns' head has been grafted to him for some fucking reason. So, Don, I know you love the Frankenstein mythos and could talk about it for days, so go ahead.
Well, I could, but this movie reminded me of This segment reminded me of a different movie or a different story, which does build off of Frankenstein itself, or at least which is The Man with Two Brains with Steve Martin. Yes. And I think the great thing about that film, this segment, or anything dealing with Frankenstein, or with the Marvel Universe, the Age of Ultron, a really good action horror movie with Gregory Hines as the lead, Eve of Destruction. You've got a lot of stories that all deal with, I can be God. I can create life, and not think about at least the way in which your plans don't necessarily work out. I'm planning on putting this brain in a robot, doesn't work, or it's too stupid, or, whatever reason, it wreaks havoc. So I need to destroy it. But it deals with humanity not willing to deal with the consequences, or not thinking about the consequences, to begin with. And probably the greatest example of Frankenstein within the real world would be related to our first discussion, or at least the discussion of the first segment, and that has to deal with nuclear armament. I think Oppenheimer made one of the scientists as part of the Manhattan Project. When it was done, he's kind of like, "Holy shit, what have I done?" I mean, paraphrasing, but he wasn't planning on this. I thought it was possible. I did it. Holy shit, I've unleashed something really bad on the world. Which is now, we spend untold numbers of dollars on shit that we should never use.
The quote you're looking for is, "I am become death."
Yes, thank you.
Which is such a weird thing to say, by the way.
Well, it's fucked up because he says it at the same time that they're doing the nuclear detonation. He's like, oh, I mean, if he could have said, "Oh, fuck, what did I do?" That's the equivalent.
Wouldn't that be amazing if that was the quote we remember him for? "Oh, fuck, what did I do?" Claim. I'm down with that.
Fuck me, I can't believe I did this stupid shit. God damn it. God damn it.
So, I really, really like this scene where Burns thinks that Homer is a corpse. I don't know why, but this is one of the funniest things to me. And it's all because of the stench. And I love that it's the context, right? Like, it's not, oh, it's in a grave, it must be a corpse. It's not, he doesn't look awake, he must be a corpse. It's none of that. No, it's the smell. I don't know, that's just fucking hilarious to me.
Well, it's another, jab at Homer, because the whole idea that he's unkempt, he's a slob, he's gross, he's got all these things going on with him that really make you question, like, how could anybody... I've asked this question about a lot of these fictional characters. Like, what would they smell like?
Really? You asked that of a lot of fictional characters?
Yeah, especially... No, I mean, because you'll see Homer Simpson, like, or Peter from Family Guy, like, picking out on stuff, right? And you're like, they cannot smell... Or you see them sweating a lot and stuff. And those of you who are listening, I know that I'm mentioning these two together. I'm sure some of you are thinking about that car wash scene with Homer and Peter when they did the crossover episode. And my first thought was, dear God, this has to be horrifying. But no, when he makes that comment about, like, oh, I can tell, he's dead from the stench. And you just think to yourself, like, how bad would Homer have to smell?
There's the whole idea that the workers are being replaced with robots.
Right.
And what I like about it is that they immediately have a problem that robots aren't as smart as humans. So it needs a human brain. And I can't think of anywhere else where this is a problem instantly like this. So I think that's interesting that they went that route. Do you know of any?
They come back to this whole idea of automated intelligence or artificial intelligence and automated workers in a later season where, Mr. Burns basically does the same thing. He fires everybody and replaces them with robots. And the programming of the robots, is so ridiculous. And then Homer, of course, hijacks the robots to do what he wants to do with them. And it involves them playing baseball, which is ridiculous. But the whole idea that automation itself, at this point in 91 or 92, when this episode airs, is all about these menial tasks. It's not about anything that's going to be highly skilled. It's about these repetitive jobs that people deem as unskilled, which then they also deem as, we should pay people low amounts of money because this is easy shit to do. This is simple. And, replace them with a robot makes sense, but fuck it. This robot's not good enough or smart enough to actually do the job. Which then again, it makes you question, like, they go for Homer. Like, that's the great joke about this is, all the jabs that are made at his intelligence and at his expense about, how smart he isn't.
What was the payoff? Like, you were going to go get a brain from a dead person. How is that going to work? Anyway, speaking of brains from dead people, Thomas, are you still there?
He's on mute.
I didn't realize.
Oh shit! I was muted though.
Yes.
I didn't mean to be.
Have you been trying to get our attention?
Maybe it's fine.
You were like, shut the...
Yes, I'm still here. I love this one. I love any Frankenstein parody. Like, I love Young Frankenstein. So this one was always right up my alley as a kid. And I love Mr. Burns and Smithers gags. And I loved that they had a whole segment together. I think that dynamic is always really funny to me. And I love Mr. Burns, and I love Mr. Burns when he's goofy. And I especially love this bit because of all the pop culture references, like when Mr. Burns is singing "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz, yes. and that bit when he puts the brain on his head and he says, "Look, Smithers, I'm Davy Crockett." Like, I must have made that joke 1,000 times when I was 4 years old. Like, I loved that. I thought it was so funny. But yeah, just echoing what you guys said, that yeah, this is just it's a clean Frankenstein parody. And yeah, what's the payoff? They had to use Homer. They couldn't use anybody else. It wouldn't be funny if it was somebody else. So
no, I mean, what is the point of going to get a dead brain to begin with? Like, wouldn't you want to, like, find somebody and kill them and take their brain while it's still functioning instead of, going to...
But is the idea that the robot gets the human's work ethic and personality, or is it just a battery for the machine, right? I think he figured that out at the end where he was like, oh, the brain does matter.
So that wraps up today's episode. Come back tomorrow when we're looking at Treehouse of Horror 3.
This concludes another episode of the Necronomicon with Jim Sabata, Don Hillary, and Thomas Sexbot Brungardt.